Welcome back to Corey's Corner. I'm Corey. This is my corner, and today we got someone that is very involved with Bellarmine. Just recently, they were up for the award. They sadly did not win of Knights of Honor. Caleb Mathis.
Yes.
How many people say your name wrong?
You know, especially recently, it's gotten pretty bad where it's like Mathis, but I've been pretty consistent for the past couple years with Mathis.
That's good. I'm sure as you've established yourself at Bellarmine, it's gotten better. Yeah,
definitely. It's hard to run around with not being recognized by the red hair sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. So, Knights of Honor, as I said, you sadly didn't win. What did you have to do to get involved with that, or how does that process work?
Oh yeah. So for myself, I got an email at first saying like a staff member has recommended you. From my understanding, it's got to be somebody who's either like deeply involved with the process or like deeply involved with the university. Like I don't think my biology professor could have recommended me, at least from my understanding. I could be wrong. And then from there, it's an application-based process. So you turn in this application and you got to make like a Bellarmine-centric resume. So I'm not including things like, I worked at Walmart for 2 years. I'm including things I've done on the university, done at the university, how long I've been at the university, things like that. Typically, everybody's like a 4-year senior, but I mean, as long as you're graduating, you can apply. It's a senior level court.
Okay.
So you apply, and then based off that application, you're accepted for an interview. So the interview is ran typically by people who were on the court previously and like a number of years ago so that you don't know them. So it's not like my buddy Gus who won last year, he's not going to be giving my interview. It was people who graduated like in 2018 previously.
Oh, wow.
So it's people that are outside of my grasp.
That's awesome that they bring people into.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it makes it real, because if your buddy Gus was there, there'd be some bias there, I'm sure. You talked about, there was a part where you had to put the things that you're involved. You told me earlier that you're involved in a lot of stuff. Can you name some of those things? And what is your favorite out of those? Can you name that too?
Yeah, I'm going to try to go through it in chronological order because it helps me out. The first thing I signed up for was to be a Bellarmine ambassador. That's the people at like the preview days and do all that kind of stuff. I was a WOW leader, and through there I moved to like WOW leader, spirits and traditions coordinator, and then ultimately student director this year. Aside from WOW, I was a hall host, so I lived in the halls and let students into my room to like kind of spend the night and get used to the Bellarmine environment, go to classes, tour guide, things like that. From there, treasurer of biology club, whoop whoop, biology club. Recently, they started the Bellarmine influencer program, so like people post on the Bellarmine story, do takeovers. I actually just did one right before I came in here about the blood drive.
Awesome.
SGA representative, I'm that too. I was on the e-board and the like committee squad for BUDM's like University Dance Marathon.
Okay, yeah.
There's probably some other ones I'm forgetting, but like those are the ones that come to the top of my mind. And definitely the one that I had the most fun with was student director of orientation. WOW holds a really special place in my heart because that's like where I met pretty much anybody that I can be like, this is my ride or die best friend I met through Week of Welcome. So definitely student director. It was very fun to kind of like help create that environment that I held so dearly that I was able to pass along to such an amazing group that are doing it this year. Maddie, she's the student director.
What's her last name?
Spalding.
Okay. Maddie Spalding.
So it was so fun to like kind of see that transition because fun fact, she was actually when I was just a regular WOW leader, she was one of the first year students that I was the WOW leader.
That's awesome.
And then I was spirits and traditions, she was a WOW leader. Then I was student director, she was spirits and traditions. So it's kind of like a full circle thing, but to see her like leading it with such an incredible group of people that are on the WOW LT leadership team now, it's really like full circle.
Yeah, so that's really awesome to see someone that you started with pretty much grow up, I guess. Yeah, that's awesome. There's one thing that I have seen you do. I don't think you said this. you give tours out, right?
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying with like hall host and tour guides.
Yeah, so that has to be pretty nerve-wracking. I like, personally for me, I'd be nervous giving a tour out. What's that like?
So when you are signing up to give tours, you're either a paid tour guide or you're a hall host. Like for a hall host, you have to have a minimum of 6 hours every week, and that's like people that work the front desk when people come in, or you're giving tours. Tours are like 2 hours. The first time you give a tour, pretty nerve-wracking. Anytime you give a tour after like not doing it for months, it's pretty nerve-wracking because there's certain like numbers and stats you have to remember. Like I remember probably my second tour, this father asked me like, so how many people go here? And my mind blanked. I couldn't even remember a number. I was like, okay, so my class is around like 600 people. So 6, 12, 18, 24. There's probably some grad students. But it's pretty fun when you get to know the group of people. So there's a pretty cool group of people doing hall hosts and tour guides now. It was really fun to do it with one of my former roommates, Alex Woosley. He was my tour partner the whole time. And so we had a lot of banter back and forth. It ultimately got to the point where we had an insider joke where, because during the tours you want to be personable. Yeah. So we did a thing where like, we would make up stories of things that happened on campus. So like we were at UDH and I was like, oh yeah, one time Alex got locked in here and we had to call security. So we like just threw in random stories and we wouldn't tell each other what they were beforehand. So it was always like I would look over and ask, did this really happen? Yeah, dude. He would look over at me like, what?
That's great. Wow. So you made it fun while you're doing tours. Because I mean, if it's going to be stressful, why don't you try and make it less stressful by having fun, and especially have it with someone that you enjoy being around.
Oh, yeah.
But speaking of people you enjoy being around, Bellarmine, what made you come to Bellarmine and enjoy it here?
So I've been here a while, and people that I've talked to know that because inevitably either I bring it up in conversation or somebody else asks me. But I did high school dual enrollment here. So at this moment, I've probably been here around 8 or 9 years.
That's crazy.
Originally, when I was filling out college applications, my number one choice was U of L because I was like, okay, I want to spread my wings. Not too far though. Plus U of L, I want to pursue medical school. So I was like, U of L, they had a guaranteed entry to medical school program. It was called the GEMS program.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I want to do that. When I was applying, 2 things changed my mind. For one, Bellarmine's pretty awesome about scholarships, so shout out Bellarmine.
That's true.
But the second thing was definitely the professors that I had for like 1 or 2 classes, like remembered me when I was about to graduate. One of them, actually, communication, public speaking, Mr. Fogel.
Gary, this is what the class is
for. This is for Gary? Okay. Mr. Fogel, he had the entire, like, Eminence High School class. And he still says, like, hey to me. And he still says hi. And I'm like, what's going on? Yeah. That was, like, one of the reasons I was like, okay, these people are pretty cool. So, shout out Gary Fogel.
Yeah.
Secondly, like, more professors than just Mr. Fogel. So, having that experience and kind of, like, locking down here was definitely what made me choose because I made a great group of friends my senior year of high school that were here, and I was like, it's definitely like I've already set some roots here.
Yeah, that's awesome. What was it? It's dual program, so that's when like high schools come here.
If you've ever seen the little yellow school bus that pulls up outside of UDH, it'll say Eminence Independent on it. It's this little rinky-dink high school out in Eminence, Henry County. Very cool place. It offers a lot of cool programs. But the Bellarmine dual enrollment was what I chose. They have stuff with like JCTC.
Okay.
If you're looking for more like trade school stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, I think I want to do the Bellarmine thing. So you had to apply. They've changed the requirement side to it. You used to have to like have an exceptional score on the ACT. Bellarmine was worried that students coming in couldn't write that well, so we had to do like writing assignments. So like I had to write a short story, nonfiction, autobiography, write all this stuff and turn it in. Now it's laxed down quite a bit, so there's like...
Yeah, I mean, speaking of colleges, you don't even have to take the ACT for a bunch of them now.
Yeah, Bellarmine's actually a test optional school, but like when I was applying, you put it in because if you do well enough, they'll give you stuff. But obviously, if you struggle with taking the tests, like everybody, some people have test-taking anxiety or whatnot. It's good for those people, but it's good for if you have good scores, you can turn it in and get more like kickback, scholarship aid, stuff like that.
Yeah. So, starting to wrap this up, given tours, what would you say to someone wanting to get involved? What would your plan of action be to someone to get involved?
Like how to get involved at Bellarmine or why they should get involved?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always say during my tours, I don't give too many tours this semester because senior bio is kind of a heck load with gross anatomy. But I always said that I wasn't very involved in high school. I did bare minimum. I just went to classes and left. I went to classes here and left. The only thing you could even consider extracurricular was you had to do something, so I played band. I played saxophone. But definitely getting involved, I mentioned, is like how you find where you want to be. I was like, it doesn't matter if it's here, Canada, Washington. I was like, I toured schools in and out of state. In every place, getting involved is kind of what made you feel like home. So I mentioned Bellarmine, the thing. When you wrap up a tour, you're actually supposed to give the reason why you chose Bellarmine.
Okay.
So the reason I always say is the professor's thing I mentioned previously, but also the fact that it was so easy to get involved. I think if you find Bellarmine a hard place to get involved, I think it's probably because you're not spreading your wings as much as you could, because Bellarmine's a very open community.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I can't walk down the hall without saying hi to like 8 people.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
I can't walk down the hall, and that's a benefit of having a smaller campus and community size, but it definitely makes it more accessible if you put yourself out there. That's the hardest part, is putting yourself out there.
That is, yeah.
I always try to say, like, even if it's hard, do it, and you'll find your place.
Yeah, and you'll find your people like you did. Thank you for coming on. You heard it from Caleb. Get involved. It'll make it easier. It'll make it more enjoyable. You'll find your people eventually. Looking forward to next week. No plan for a guest yet. I'll have one by next week, so you can be looking forward to that. Thank you all for watching.